Back a long time ago, when I first got started in this whole arena, there was no technology. There was absolutely no technology to speak of. Okay, and the
Yeah.
only methods that people had to get to know each other was networking. Networking was the technique and method for getting to know somebody that you wanted to know. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little story and use an analogy here that I think is highly relevant to this situation that we're in. Okay. So, what is networking? Well, I mean, you may have heard the word 1,000 times. That doesn't necessarily mean that really know the intricacies or the subtleties of it. So, when the only thing that you have available to you is the telephone, the telephone and handwritten letter, handwritten or hand typed letters, that are typed on an old fashioned typewriter and put in an envelope and then mailed with a postage stamp. And
Yeah.
you have that, and you have a telephone with that you can pick up, which has a cord on it, and you can dial a number. Okay, so those are the things you have. And then you also have a library. So you can go to a library and you can read books in the library, right? That sort of thing. Okay, so those are your tools. Those are the tools. But in that sort of universe, in that sort of world, if you want to get to know the an executive in a corporation, so there's some particular will say, there's some big company and you want to work for this company. So you want to because you really like the company and you really feel that you have a lot of great abilities and skills and you would be a great fit for this company. But you don't want to you're not going to submit your resume because that's the kiss of death. So sending your resume is the kiss of death, right? Because even in 40 or 50 years ago, that's what everybody did. Everybody did that. They sent their resume, and
Yeah.
99% were ignored and thrown in the garbage. Okay, so you don't want to do that. So, okay, so what was I taught when I was very young and I was starting out and I talked to some very brilliant men? What did they teach me? They taught me the art of networking. And I'm going to give you this skill and understanding. So I would meet with somebody in the field or the industry that I am in. And I would say to them, we get to know them, build rapport, get them, they would respect me and see my more my attributes and my abilities and such, and really want to help me. And I would be the same with them. And then I would ask them for some contacts. I would be honest and open with them. I want to work for company X, but I don't really know anybody with company X. Can you help me? And they might say, well, I don't know anybody in company X anyway, but I do know these three people who are in this industry and field, and they work for other companies that are similar to X or know people who may know people at X. And they would be willing in that meeting to give me the names of and phone numbers. There's no email, there's no computer, so there's no email. There's such a thing as email, but there would be a phone number, okay, um, and maybe their physical address or whatever. And then I would say to them, "Would you do me a favor and contact these three people for me and let them know you met with me, and let them know that you're going to refer me to them." And because back in those days, people relied on personal connection. They relied on that because that was the only thing they had was personal connection. Okay. There was nothing else. Okay. There was no social media. Okay. I mean, there were meetings, but they were physical gatherings where large events where people would come together and people did all the time. And there were meetings, public meetings all the time. Okay. But that's a whole other story. So when these three individuals learned about me and they learned that I had met with their friend John, so their friend John, who they respected and thought of John very highly. And when John met with me and then thought of me in a very positive light and referred them, they were willing to meet with me because of John. John was the linking factor in terms of respect, reputation, etc., that made those three
Connection.
people, right, be willing to meet with me. And they would meet with me either face to face or on the phone. So we'd have an actual phone conversation, or if we lived near each other, we might meet in a cafe. We might meet face to face in a cafe or in their office. It was very common back then for people to meet face to face, typically in their office or over a cup of coffee or tea or something to that effect. Okay. And so in those meetings that I had with those three people, these men that were my mentors that taught me when I was very young, they taught me how to build a strong connection with those three people. Okay. And there was a name. I'm going to tell you the name of what it was called. Okay. Because we had our own terminology back then. It was called a creative conversation. A creative conversation. And what was a creative conversation? Well, it was a time when you met, you got to know each other, you built respect for each other, you build an understanding of what your goals were, what your abilities were, what your background was, what your goals were, and you built a level of trust, a sort of a basic level of trust, and most importantly, a desire to help each other, a genuine desire to help each other, and an understanding that the way to help people is to connect them with other contacts, other individuals. And we had a name for that. We called these people centers of influence, CI, or centers of influence, right? So
Oh,
and I've taught this like all through the 1980s and 1990s when I did all my live events, because I did many live, 3-day intensive workshops and events. So I would teach them this concept, this networking, this networking idea. And I would teach them this concept that every single human being that you know or you've ever heard of is a center of influence. Now, why is it so powerful to call someone a center of influence rather than just some John or some Jane or some whatever, Susan or whatever? Because when you call somebody a center of influence, you are acknowledging immediately that they have a sphere of influence, right? There's a sphere of people around them. Okay. Nowadays, people are in my experience, much more reluctant to make contacts or give you referrals. And because of the fact of networking online and social media, where everyone knows everybody, people don't rely that much or use this type of method very much. But it still is the absolutely most powerful method of reaching out and building key relationships. Okay, so here's my idea here of how we can apply this proven, age-old proven networking technique and how we can bring it to 2025. Okay, so that we can create our own 2025 version of this age-old proven method from 1975. Okay, go from 1975 to 2025. Okay. And really it does work. It works absolutely brilliantly, but it works with patience and understanding of the importance of every single relationship that you have. And it's built on the understanding that underlying everything, people do like to help each other. People do have a genuine desire to help each other. Okay. So let's say I'm going to put myself in the place and I met John. John gave me these three contacts, and these individuals either know the influencer that I'm wanting to ultimately connect, or they may not, but they know somebody who knows them, or they know somebody who may know them. You get the idea? And so in those meetings we build that connection strong enough to the point where they are willing to make an introduction to those other contacts that they know. And then I leapfrog from there to those other people. And in every case, I'm very candid. I'm very open, I'm very honest, I'm very candid. And I say, my goal is to work for company X, or my goal is to meet with James, or my goal, whatever, and is this. And they are honest with me. I'm honest with them. They're honest with me. They say, well, sorry, Howard, I don't know him directly. I don't know how to connect, but I do know some of his big followers. I know a couple of his clients, or I know two of his clients, or I need to know two people that are very very big in his network. So people who are active in his network, and I can give you the names of those people, right? So, and I'll introduce you to them, okay? And so then it becomes a stair stepping, like a leapfrog stair stepping process. Go from one to the next. And so, what the ultimate outcome of this networking process is personal connection through
Yeah.
referral. Through referral. Referral is the key here. Okay. So eventually, if I do this little zigzag, eventually Jennifer, who knows the influencer and meets me and finally says, oh my God, yes, you're perfect for the influencer. He can help you, he or she can help you. You're perfect. The two of you could do great things together. And finally, you build enough of a bond, enough of trust, enough of a bond where Jennifer says, okay, I'm going to connect the influencer to you. I'm going to reach out to him or her and tell them about you, and that it would really be ideal for the two of you to connect. So you do it in this manner, okay? Now, what happens? Let's just say, what if? Me, I love asking these what if questions. So if I go to Perplexity, and I'm jumping to 2025 from 75, I'm going to 2025, and I'm going to Perplexity, and I'm saying to Perplexity, what is the best way to apply this old networking technique? And I describe the old, step-by-step leapfrog technique, which hopefully Perplexity knows about or has heard about somewhere or is programmed,
Yeah.
with it. Again, what's the best way to apply this technique in 2025 to getting connected to a major influencer with whom that I want to build some type of a profitable alliance. And then Perplexity will give me a formula, or they might even recommend a website, because there are websites that specialize in influence marketing, right? Influencer marketing is a real thing in the world. And there are methods, techniques to do that systematically. Okay. And so we don't want to reinvent the wheel again. We want to use what we have available to us. Okay. And we want to use the methods that are proven to work. And so this is what I would recommend, because Perplexity or Grok or any AI will have the connections to all the resources for influencer marketing, and not only the way to reach out. So I do remember, now that I'm saying this, I do remember, or what, I don't know, it was probably a few months ago that I did encounter a website specifically designed for influencer marketing, specifically
Wow.
designed to connect you with people who have a following. And it's all built into the site. And one of the things why it's so valuable, it's obviously valuable to me, but why is it so valuable to the influencer? Because the influencer does not want to be inundated by every Joe and John and Jane and person out in the world that is sort of just very, your very average person doesn't want to be bothered by them. They don't have time or energy for that. So if they're going to be approached by somebody, they want to have some filtering, some very smart level of filtering for knowing who is connecting with them, and some filtering that that provides them with enough data about you, and that it's worth their time to actually consider. Okay, so when you do the search in Perplexity, then I believe that you will get these websites, and there's probably more than one that exists like this. And we want to join those websites. We want to plug into those websites. We want to learn everything we can learn, and we want to become good at influencer marketing as a process, as a method. We're not doing a hit and miss hope. We don't do hit and miss hope, right? We do a process which is well thought out and detailed and thorough and well researched in the method itself, not just what we say with the person. Okay, so this is what I suggest that we do. And one of the things that these sites or resources will provide is they will likely have coaching or provide education or information about the best approach to take when you reach out to a person like this. Okay. Now, if in 1975, if that was available, well, obviously everyone would do it. But truth of the matter is that even that in 1975, no one knew this. And here's the real clincher, the thing mind blower is that in 2025, nobody knows it. So it hasn't changed from 1975 to 2025. Nobody still hasn't learned it. So I
Yeah.
just was one of those very fortunate few to know these two men and be working in this organization that I was involved in, where they taught this to me and they showed it to me. Okay. And obviously they're all long gone, but that was the gem or one of the genius gifts, the genius gifts that they gave me, which stuck in my brain and I've never forgotten it because I used it everywhere. And in fact, all through the 1980s and 1990s, believe it or not, I used this method to build and maintain the business that I had. There was no other method. I mean, the only marketing that existed in that time period was mailing letters, taking physical paper letters and sending
Yeah.
them out to 100 or 200 people with stamps on them and addresses, handwritten addresses on them. That was the only way you could reach people. Okay. Well, they did have telephone campaigns, where you could hire somebody to dial the phone, to dial 100 numbers, whatever. Okay. But again, very archaic. But the idea, the principles are the same principles. They just get recycled and they take on a different form with technology. But the principles are the same because human beings fundamentally are the same at that personal emotional level. Okay. People who are well known and successful, they still want people to do things or to connect for mutual benefit, but they're very discerning, very careful and discerning, because their asset is their time. Their time is their most preciously guarded asset. Okay. So for other people, money is their most preciously guarded asset. But for those people, no, it's not money, it's not success, it's time. Time is their most precious asset. So they have to guard it and protect it fully and only use that time when it's worthy, when the individual and the situation is worthy of their time. So we are, in a sense, doing networking in a more technological version of it uh, to earn the right to have that time with that person. Then, once we've earned that right, then we need to use the method of communication that's most effective to win that time, to gain their attention, right? And win their willingness to devote their time. So, this is a synopsis. I'm going to have Cynthia cut this piece of this video out for, so that we have the old fashioned, 1975 networking technique. Okay. So now you tell me if you understand what I'm saying, if you have any questions about this. And I see the thing about you is you're a child of the 21st century. So you've never had any experience of what I've described. Okay. But there's an advantage in that. The advantage is by only knowing an advanced technological world, that's all you've ever experienced. But you can take what I'm sharing and say,
Yeah,
okay, how does this method work in this time period,
2025.
this new time period? Okay. So yeah, and you may have questions, and that this is the beautiful part about this conversation is that we discover together how we can apply the method from 1975 to 2025. We can figure that out.